Hey, 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 what is going on? You are watching and, of course, listening to Tags Live, aka Talk About Gay Sex, the podcast live edition. And we are back in 2023 with episode 428 alongside Kodi Maurice Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Darling, I'm doing wonderful. I'm very rested. I'm ready for tonight's live show. It's so good to see your face.
It's great to see your face. We are live. I don't think I mentioned I'm your host, Stevie, and really happy in 2023. I always feel good at the beginning of the year,
Oh
partly
yeah.
because I'm into renewal, I'm into spirituality, and I have an upcoming birthday next Thursday, January 12th. So I love birthdays. So
Can't
I'm looking forward to
wait.
that. Yeah,
Gonna have a good
exactly.
time.
Well, we are live here every Wednesday night on the Vocal platform, and we've got a live audience in front of us. I see a few names, including Alan W. Hi there. And we want you to participate in our live show as we always do. And we've got some surprises that we're going to layer throughout 2023, but we're
Oh yes.
starting off slowly to get you in the mood like we always
Mhm.
do. You know how we do it
We're
here.
lubing you up, guys.
Yeah, it's all about the pre-game. And, one thing I've done today, if you're coming to New York City, and I know a lot of you guys love coming to our home city here, I went today and saw Audra McDonald in the play called Ohio State Murders. It's so good. I think it only goes to the middle of February, but it is with all of you know she's probably won the most Tony Awards of anybody. It's powerful. It's really about a playwright, Adrian Kennedy, and it is 75 minutes of an emotional storytelling piece that you learn so much about this playwright and what she put out there, but also it's an amazing story too, and it was emotional.
Wow.
And yeah, so highly recommend Audra and Ohio State Murders.
Love Audra.
Love,
The
yeah,
best.
she's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lady Day was my other favorite that I saw her in, and she played Billie
Yes.
Holiday, and I went
So
three
good.
times and just was crying for days. And yeah, so good.
Aww.
Okay, well, we've got a full show ahead of you, and let's get right into it because we have so much to talk about,
Mhm.
including Rolling Stone magazine, which recently caused a whole stir because they decided to name the 200 y'all best singers of all time. And you can understand why the gays probably got into the mix, because I'm sure it didn't list some of their favorite singers. I have a lot to say on this. The reason we want to talk about this because it's hot topics, but also because we love our singers, whether we are fucking or not fucking, or in the middle of fucking or pre-gaming. We've always got our music on, so we've
Oh
got a lot to
yeah.
say about this. And where some of the list included singers like so 200 best singers of all time. The comprehensive list included people like Amy Winehouse, Johnny
Mhm.
Cash, Celia
Mhm.
Cruz,
Yes. Love.
Prince, and Marvin Gaye. Okay, most of those I'm totally for and love.
Uh-huh. Okay. Speak on
And
it.
the article that I loved that listed said, before you start scrolling, keep in mind that this is the greatest singers list, not the greatest voice list. And that to me is where I'm always coming from. This article said that talent is impressive, genius is transcendent. Many of the people here, may not have voices that you would assume is the best voice of all time, but they have more rougher, stranger, delicate, interesting sounds to them that make them have them on this list. And I agree with that. The list included people like Taylor Swift, though, Ariana Grande, The Weeknd, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Tina Turner, Brenda Lee, Frank Sinatra, just to name a few. People like Sylvester, who I have his
Yes.
records over there, and he sang in falsetto.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he was iconic, and he owned the voice, and this is what it was about, the voice. I think people, Kodi, were a little bit harsh on
Oh,
criticizing it
okay.
because I think they did a good job of creating people like Morrissey, who has such an interesting voice, and of the
I agree.
Smiths,
Yes.
Michael Stipe, Elton John, of all, obviously we got George Michael, Lady Gaga. A lot of people don't think that David Bowie had the most amazing vocal ability, but he had the most he's one of my iconic heroes of all time.
I
He's
love him.
on this list.
Yeah, he's a great vocalist he's a great musical interpreter, I feel like. I love a lot of the people that you mentioned. I cannot see a world. I've been holding it in. I almost walked out because we
Here we go.
we were talking. You named a couple names. They put Taylor Swift on a list of the greatest singers ever. I cannot see it in any world. Not only did they put Taylor Swift on, they left off a bunch of wonderful song interpreters. Celine Dion,
Okay, so everybody was upset that Celine wasn't on the list.
yes.
But I think in the meeting, they probably were saying this isn't the most technically sound voice ever. And maybe that's why she didn't make the list. I personally am not a Celine fan, so it didn't matter to me. But I understand where some people may have been mad because Mariah was on the list. But I feel like Mariah has tried different. She's not my favorite either, but she's tried different sounds, R&B. We just got off of Christmas, and she's calling herself the Queen of Christmas.
And she is.
And so I think that, that to me wasn't a miss, but, Ozzy Osbourne is on the list as one of the 200 best voices of all time.
You know what? I'm not hating on that. I'm hating on the fact that they left off so many wonderful singers that have had wonderful careers and made their stamp on music and influenced so many people. They left Madonna and Janet Jackson off the list. How can you be behind a list that doesn't have Madonna and Janet Jackson on it?
Well, and see, those are my favorite too. Pop stars, right?
I planned this out. I literally wrote down. I'm gonna get Steve on my side by saying those two names.
But to me, it didn't. I wasn't offended by that because as much as I love Janet Jackson, I love Madonna. I think their pop star status, like if it was 200 of the greatest pop stars of all time, I would put Madonna, Elvis, Janet, Beatles at the top of those lists.
Okay.
And I personally love them, but maybe they just don't make that list of voices. And their criteria seem to be, the one I will agree with you is, to me, Taylor Swift maybe didn't need to be on that list because I don't think her voice isn't that interesting to me. There's nothing that really, and I think she uses a lot of the filters that work with pop music today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're not really hearing the true acoustic Taylor. It's just all studio driven, and I don't know if that makes her on the list, but whatever.
Yeah, I think that's where they went left, and I think that's why a lot of people are upset, is because they put Taylor on, and then they didn't include all of these phenomenal, iconic artists on the list. And they should have named it something different than the greatest singers, the 200 greatest singers, because singers means that it's basically vocalists. They're synonymous, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting list that they included. I think the thing that the writer of this piece wrote that I think a lot of my gays brothers get up in arms with is when you start talking about who's a good singer and who's a not singer. And I always go back to, why was American Idol created? And I think it's all about, listen, I understand there are a million amazing singers in this planet. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make them, I want to listen to all their music. So it's really about what you vibe with, and it's not always a technically sound voice. when I went to my friend's wedding over Thanksgiving holiday, there was amazing. All 5 of these singers, men and women, were so good, and they could sing Earth, Wind, and Fire, and they could sing Lady Gaga, and they can sing Elton John. But they're really good interpreters of these, and they gave their twist on it. But maybe they found that putting out an album and writing the whole pop music game is just a whole thing, and it's more than that. It's a whole phenomenon that you've got to figure out that makes us all wanting to buy albums and go to concerts, and that's just like that spark, that acting spark, that nobody, that je ne sais quoi, that nobody can really put their face. Otherwise, if there was a recipe for that, everybody could be a star, and that's the reason why it just doesn't always work.
Okay, but my rebuttal to you is, do you think Taylor Swift has that and Madonna and Janet Jackson do not have that? That's just my question for you, sir.
I'm not a Swiftie, and I definitely think she doesn't have it at all. I don't get it. I've gotten over. I used to get a little bit upset.
She's a good writer. Beautiful gowns, beautiful gowns.
She's being sued, though, for stealing music for one of her songs. So I don't know how much she's writing, but what are people saying before we move on?
Alan W. says, so far so good, when we were going over some of the people on the list that you were mentioning. And Alan W. also goes on to say, no Madge, oh no honey. And Taylor Swift is more pop than Madonna. And he just checked the list and Whitney is on there. I think she's number 2. And he said he was going to throw a hissy fit. Aretha Franklin is number 1. And if you remember, Celine Dion went head to head on the Diva Live stage with Aretha Franklin. And she can sing more types of music than a lot of the people that are on that list. So just putting that out there, Celine has got it all. And I did a whole Celine Dion, go back in the day, rundown of her whole discography. And it was amazing. I love Celine Dion.
Okay, well, we're rooting for Celine, though, that she gets better as well, because we don't want, And did you we read what people are saying here?
Yes.
All right. Got it. Moving on. All right. We want to quickly go through, because, sometimes on our show, we do want to talk about politics a little bit, because they often bump into our having good sex here. And we want to make sure that the people that are in Washington have our best interest. And we want to keep talking about George Santos, of course, who just won his seat here in Long Island, New York, Long Island, and he is set to be sworn in. Republican, gay. If you remember, I'll try and do a quick recap. He's up. He just won a seat in the House of Representatives here in Long Island, and he is turning out to be a big liar on many fronts. And we already talked about it, but just to give you a quick refresh on what he lied about where he went to school, not one but 2 schools, Baruch and NYU. He lied about where he worked, Goldman Sachs, Citicorp. One of the most insidious lies, Kodi, of what he lied about was that many of his staff were involved and shot and died in the Pulse nightclub.
Oh, yeah.
And that is so near and dear to every person that knows about that story. And he actually said that he lost employees that worked under him, which turned out nothing could be proven on that. The lies keep going on with him, including that he's wanted in Brazil. When he was 21 in 2008, he spent $700 using a fake check, like somebody else's check, and he's wanted there. Well, he's been on the Congress floor, walking around the Congress floors without his wedding ring, and reporters are running up to him and saying, can you speak to all these allegations? And he hasn't been. He looks really like crazy, and it's just not looking good for him. What are your thoughts on? I mean, it's just nuts.
Yes, this is a circus. Go ahead.
The thing is, he has to be sworn in, and right now, currently here in the States, those of you listening, we are trying to get Speaker of the House nominated so that and it's set on the Republican side of it, they can't get their act together right now. They've been voting, and the reason why it's relevant to George Santos is because he probably will be sworn in, but there has to be a whole ceremony and there has to be a Speaker of the House before that can happen.
Yes.
So he's sort of in limbo land right now, but I just think this story will continue, and you can't lie to us. The whole thing about being a psychotic liar and thinking that you're going to get away with this, we're going to be talking a little bit more about this later in the show, is crazy to me.
Oh, yes, I totally agree with you. And I think that he should stay in limbo land. He should be thrown in the Bermuda Triangle as far as I'm concerned. And because he is just a stunt queen, and stunt queens are going to stunt. All right. He's been doing it since he was 21. And I cannot wait for the Lifetime movie of his life, because this is just insane to me. And what really gets me is that we all know that he's been lying about all of these things, but nothing is being done to actually address his constituents that voted for him and really take charge of the narrative to get him ejected from his place in Congress. And I just think that that's horrible. So I want us to call legal right now and type it up and see if we can get him out of there before he gets sworn in. I don't understand it. And did you know that there was even speculation that he's not wearing his wedding ring anymore because he's not actually married to a man?
Oh my God. No, I did not. But I read that he's not wearing his wedding ring. I just said that, but I didn't know the speculation that he's not married to a man. So, yeah. And, for the record, we would call out a Democratic and independent on this show if they were pulling the same stunts too, because ultimately, Kodi, they're representing us. Yeah, and yes, it's Long Island, it's New York, but they're still representative, and it still affects us all, and we need to call this shit out. So that's all I got to say on that. Absolutely. Right.
Alan W. says that this is just Samuel Brenton, who I believe was on the Democratic side, all over again. It's just a bad name for our community. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Really. Okay, well, we have to move on. And if you listen to episode 427 that just came out in 2023, the first episode of 2023 with Jeremy Ross Lopez, we were talking about Sniffies. Sniffies, if you know, is the GPS platform, I guess you can call it. We had a rep on Eli on our show last year. Maybe we'll get him back on, Kodi. Yeah. He was talking, they were giving out their stats on where people were coming from, what was the horniest city, and New York City won, followed by Los Angeles, Chicago, and so forth. Well, Grindr, of course, is not far behind, and they did not want to be left out on their stats. And let me just read a few of their stats. Grindr came out, the countries with the highest percentage of tops, according to Grindr, were Bolivia. I need to go to Bolivia. Yeah, drum roll. Bolivia.
Yay.
Followed by the United States, South Korea. Okay, I really want to go to South Korea. Greece. I got fucked by a good top in Greece before. And India.
What? Tops in India?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I mean,
I looked that up when I'm searching.
They're everywhere. So I can see it, but
those with the most bottoms can be found in Denmark, Japan, Serbia, South Africa, and Peru. This is just according to Grindr. If you're looking to flip fuck, then you'll find the most versatile users in Russia. Okay, not going there anytime soon. Finland, Croatia, Germany, and Taiwan. Okay, nice. And sides. Places. What are sides again, Kodi?
Let me Google it really quick.
I can't remember. Sides.
I can't remember either.
I forget what sides mean, where sides can head to China, New Zealand, Costa Rica, Australia, Singapore, Okay. I can't remember what that is. That's so crazy that I can't. We talked about it on the show before. If one of our listening audience knows what sides are, if you go by
I
sides,
got it.
what is it?
A homosexual male who does not enjoy anal penetration, giving or receiving, but will engage in other forms of same-sex activity like fellatio, fraudage, and mutual masturbation.
Thanks, producer Kodi. Love it.
Do my
Got it.
best.
So just to repeat what he just said, China, New Zealand, Costa Rica, Australia, Singapore, and cities using the app most were for Grindr were Washington, DC, and Paris. So those were interesting findings. The one thing that didn't come across on Grindr or even Sniffies, and I don't know why they would, Kodi, was relationships. Like who is
Yeah.
meeting people on these apps. And the reason I bring it up is because you, Kodi, just celebrated your 2-year anniversary. It's
Congratulations
your
to me and Joe, I
anniversary.
guess.
How does that song go?
It's our anniversary. Anniversary. Yes.
Tony.
Tony.
Okay.
And why aren't they on the list? Okay, Raphael Sadiq. He's amazing. Okay.
Raphael Sadiq, love. And
Yeah.
I interviewed him before, and maybe we'll get him on the show because he's amazing, Raphael Sadiq.
Let's
Okay.
do it.
2 years, you just celebrated Monday night, and of being with Joe, your boyfriend, who we've talked a lot on the show. You actually met him on Grindr.
We did.
Interestingly enough, they didn't include stats for that, but you were saying probably because how would they find that out, right?
Yeah. I don't understand how they could know unless they went out and interviewed the community. But I think that we'd be able to probably find it somewhere else. If they need someone to get all that data, I would love to do that. I love, and I think that I would be the perfect candidate. So if they want to run me my money and my coins, then I will come out and I will gather all that data for them.
You know, it's a perfect producer pitch because the gays essentially, Kodi, meet okay, so take the guy that I met on the naked beach over last summer, where the reason why I called him over was because he was walking naked and I liked what I saw, and you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
But
yeah.
when he came over, so my point being, and I have a point, is that we tend to start with the sexuality of it all because it's in our gay repertoire DNA. And then we just work backwards. That's just how we work. So I think they should put a little bit more energy. Grindr, they could compete with Match.com, and if they put a little bit more energy into that, Grindr often is in the news and not for good things. And I think that they should start that. I know they've tried. I know Scruff has tried. Like there's a match form of it. And I know it's hard when you start with one direction of a business model, but I think that they would behoove themselves to, and you're a prime example. 2 years strong, and you moved in. It's not even that you're like together for 2 years. Yeah, don't let me remind you.
He's in the living room right now, getting on my nerves. Anyway, I love him so much. No, we had a wonderful anniversary. We went out to dinner. We had a delicious dinner. There's a Michelin star restaurant right down the street, and it just brought up these memories of our very first date, which is actually January 1st, which was Sunday, but I was working, so anyway, but we had great sex that night. So, so that's the best anniversary gift. So
cheers to that. I love it. Really, congratulations, Kodi. I love that. Ellen W. watching us live says, I met my boyfriend on Adam for Adam. Also kind of, is Adam for Adam still around? But it does seem like it's a little more about relationships. I don't know. Kodi, do you know?
I think I'm pretty sure it. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't see why it would go anywhere. I don't hear people talk about it as much, but that's like a web-based thing. I used to be on there a lot. Yeah, I used to be on a lot of the apps all the time, but I haven't been on anything recently.
And lastly, with Grindr, we got to shout out to Kansas City LGBTQ Commission named its new chair last week, Justin Horn, who's only 24. And he posted, I do not and will not regret posting this because I'm young, single, and gay. But even the folks on Grindr are wishing me well on becoming the chair of the LGBTQ Commission. Thanks, Kings, he wrote. And part of what he is part of his job is staying connected with the LGBTQ community, obviously. And he also says he's not in the least bit uncomfortable letting people know he uses Grindr. That part, I love that he said that, because we talk so much. We're going to be talking about it in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
About merging your sexual life, your sexuality with your... They should just be synonymous, essentially. Yeah. But we keep talking about when your job gets in the way with posting nudes. About to talk about that in a second.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that we need more people like Justice saying things like, yeah, I'm a sexual person. I think you said that in the past with people that have posted things that, yeah, they're having sex too and they're on Grindr. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's good.
Yep.
And that's not... we live so much in shame, I think, most of our LGBTQ lives. Most of us are rooted in shame. And I think that when you find leadership expressing things like Justice did, I'm all here for it. So we'll continue to shout out to people like that.
That's so sweet.
Okay. Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you go ahead? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that Grindr is a tool, and you can use it for whatever. You can use it for professional reasons, to get friends. You can just use it for whatever you want at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I 100% agree on that. Maybe I'll join that. We'll see. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we love to follow up on a story. And last year we were talking about weatherman Eric Adame. If you remember the story, just to give you a quick refresh, New York One or Spectrum News. He was the weatherman. I actually watched it every morning, and I partly watched his news reports because I live here in New York City, and he was very, very cute, very sexy, and I loved watching his news reports on the weather. Well, if you remember, he was fired from his job because he was posting videos of going on basically cam boys, right? Is that what you call it? Like,
so he was
webcam videos.
Yes, it was a circle jerk. So basically, it was a website. It's called LPSG, which stands for Large Penis Support Group, and it's normally what people go on there for, and what I've been on there before for, is to get nudes of people that have had their nudes leaked or what have you, and they host a circle jerk.
But you can go live on there, correct? Webcam, because that's what he did. Yes,
exactly. So the circle jerk is on a webcam, and it's basically a bunch of people. It's like Skype, or what is the one where the Zoom? That's the one. There it is. It's basically like Zoom.
But you're putting yourself out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he was doing that, and even at one point he was doing it for, I think, years, actually.
Yeah.
Remember Weatherman? He was doing that for years. And at one point, there was a segment in late December of, I think during the pandemic, where he was doing it several times and also listing like, hey guys, here's my phone number, or here's my name. He said, somebody recognized him, and he confirmed, yep, I'm that weatherman guy that you see every morning. And he mentioned his boss. I would love my boss to fuck me. He also mentioned his address. So here's my address here in New York. Come over. My door's open. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Normal stuff. Anyway, so
regular Friday night.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And which I love and all here for. And obviously we're sex positive here. Well, the problem was that, just to refresh your memories, if you're new to the story, somebody, which
Mm-hmm.
Eric Adame is now calling sexual predators, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, caught the video, grabbed the video, sent the video not only to his boss,
Mm-hmm.
the company, Spectrum News, but also sent it to his mother. Okay, awful.
Yeah.
Like, just who are you people? He got fired. That's the story. Now he's coming forth. He finally got the courage in a current video. If I can, I'll put the link up on tagspodcast.com, linked with episode 428.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to watch the video, I know you watched it, Kodi.
Yes.
In it, he takes responsibility for it sucks, but he calls the people that did this to him sexual predators. And when he talks about sexual predators, he's definitely talking about people that go on websites and grab it, so that even when you close your computer and he said he never wanted this material to be out there. It was strictly for who was online at that time, and that sending it off to his boss and his mom is wrong. He never wanted that kind of thing to ever happen, and that he essentially learned his lesson from that. And it's also a lesson for what he said what not to do in terms of he gave basically a lesson to say whatever you put out there lasts forever, Kodi.
Yes.
And this is something that we've been talking about, and this is why I wanted to continue talking about this on the show, because this topic keeps coming up. We just talked about it on the show on episode 427 about what you put out there. Does it have repercussions or not? Should people be able to do what they want and post nudes? And I think the consensus is yes. However, with every action is a response. And we live in an era right now where people are going to grab your video, and he says there's sexual predators recording you, and that basically there's bots out there as well. Many of these are in Europe, and they're grabbing that and putting them on websites. And he says he was reading many Reddit threads of people that said they posted one video of themselves once, and now they're living in depression and they're suicidal because of that one time that they posted that one video of themselves. And I get it, right?
I get it.
I think that's why I go back to always listen, what you put out there now, we live in a different world now. And so I'm listening to Eric Adame and his warnings. On the flip side of it, and I want you to weigh in a second.
Yes.
I know you're chomping at the bit here. I'm just going to say one last thing. On the flip side of it all, I think that he was a very extreme version of this, and I think he worked in media. And I do think when you work in certain forms of work, it's like they're going to do this work. There are certain agencies, acting agencies out there, and if they find out that you did anything like that, they won't represent you. So he was already in the mix, is my point. Major position in a major market, weatherman, and to not really think it through was a little bit naive, more than naive.
Short-sighted.
And he needs to maybe rethink where he's headed and not blame as much, and just it's time to pivot and go in a different direction. Or I think there might be other markets out there. He just might have to downsize and because it's too late. The story's out there, and it's too late. Go ahead.
Let me fill up my glass because I don't know.
You should have been doing that.
But I need a sip before I talk, because I think it's really wrong. He mentioned in this video that the people that screen grabbed the video,
yeah,
they are also using it on a website and charging people for his video that he made, which I think is completely wrong. He's being 100% exploited by that, because
that's the point of that whole thing, though.
I get that, but any royalties that come, I'm just saying, if they're making money off of it, that is his intellectual property at the end of the day. So he should.
You realize we're not talking about the
people that are
music
being honest.
world,
But
or
I think that
book,
is
like book rights, or
I get that, but I understand that they didn't get it by any means that were legal. So that is how they circumvented having to be able to pay him any money. But I think that is the part that makes me really feel for him, that he is being exploited in that way. Basically, he's being, oh my God, pimped out
but
on
it's
these
the
sites.
age-old story, Cody, of I know, go ahead.
Yeah, but another part of me is totally agrees with you, and I don't want to victim blame, because
No,
I do think that what happened to him, he didn't expect for this to be on this stage. He said in his video also that he didn't want to be looked at as a sexual object. I don't think that's necessarily 100% true, because he did, but only in the scope of on the website
context.
with those people. Exactly.
We all
The
want to
with
look like a sexual object in a particular, I mean,
sense.
context.
Yes, exactly.
When I'm
But
at
when it
the
got
and when I'm at when I'm at a cruise bar and I'm seeing a hot guy that I want to get with, and I'm
yes.
seeing their dick out, I don't need them to see the whole thing of me. I need them to see my goods, or what's going to work to get me in that moment sexually with them. So yes, I think sexual object at that moment. To his
And
point, like you said, in context.
exactly, in that context. He didn't expect it to get out, as far as he doesn't want his mother to see him as a sexual
Well,
object.
thank you.
Yes. So I think in that respect, for him to lose his job, for him to have this exposed to his mother, for him to be taken advantage of by all of these media outlets out there making money off of his hard work that he did on this website. I think that is exploitive, but still part of me, it really is wondering, and it really does not. I know people that have had their they were having private sex and they got recorded. This happens all the time. I don't it like, and you said that the naivete of this gentleman, Eric Adame, is so far out of there. I couldn't understand it. People cover their webcam on their computer so that stuff like this doesn't get leaked out to the people. Don't put certain things in the cloud so that it doesn't get leaked out. This is
It,
just the nature of the beast that we're living in right now, and for him to not take that into consideration when he put himself on a website, it really, it takes some of the consolation that I feel for him away, because I
well, and
don't.
you and I both listened to the audio that
Yeah.
was of his voice, that we're pretty certain we heard the actual audio when this story first leaked, and we heard what he said. And many of the things that he said in there, where he blended his work life with his sexual life. So he
Hmm.
said things like, "Oh, yep, I am that weatherman. You're right." He agreed with somebody that was
Yeah.
watching him live. He then said, "I want my boss to fuck me. Wouldn't it be hot if my boss, my manager, whatever at the network fucked me?" And he kind of that's, I think, what Spectrum fired him on, is
Oh yeah, for
because
sure.
when I'm sure there's laws on this. Where's our legal team? If you're listening.
I had him on the line a second ago. I don't
Okay.
know what they're
Yeah,
doing
we're
now.
getting there though. We're getting there. Yeah. I have a lawyer next to me right now, but he's
I
not
know,
on.
right?
He's not listening right now, but
I
he
was.
is not. He's nodding over there. So I'm assuming that when you talk about your work life, he is nodding as I'm saying this, and you merge that, you're blending the two things, and that's grounds for termination. Yeah, he just gave me the axe. Like, yes, that's good.
Perfect.
Well, yeah,
Thank you,
perfect.
legal.
Thank you, legal team over there. It is actually a lawyer in the studio as I speak.
And
So
you
yeah,
know, I thought about him too. I was like, "Ooh, thank goodness."
right. So he forgot to mention that thing on the video that he just did, and
Hmm.
so I think at a certain point, you got to take responsibility for what you did do. And yes, and I think we've come to the conclusion we're probably going to continue to talk about this subject about posting nudes. Can you have an OnlyFans if you're in this profession? What's appropriate? This is the age-old topic. Why? Because we're in a world right now where our worlds are colliding and sexuality isn't. We're trying to do our part with this show to get people to talk more openly about it. I've certainly, if you listen to the early shows and where I've come through 6 years, we're about to celebrate 6 years in a month, that I've come so far with my conversation on what I used to talk about. I was at a holiday party. Oh, not a holiday party. Let me retract that. I was talking to my sister and her friend, and somebody, a gay friend of theirs, mentioned fisting, and I didn't realize that the tattoo on the arms with the bars means
kidding.
That for some guys means that that's where it was a baloney actor in the San Francisco Baloney Cabaret all-male review, and he said, those lines when you see it on the forearm of some guys means that's where they'll fist you.
Oh, wow.
And I blurted out, well, I've experimented with that in front of my sister and her friend, but I broke it down. I broke it down on how it really is mental and how you just don't go into fisting. It's a whole thing. We'll talk about it on the after shows in 2023. But my point being, in a very long-winded way of saying, is people were coming a long way. And so I just think that Eric is not really, I think he just needs to move on. And I'm glad he said his piece. And in some ways I feel for him.
I do have a lot of compassion for him, but I agree with you. Especially, and it really made me rethink actually going on LPSG to see if those people nudes were out there, because it really is exploitive at the end of the day. So I have compassion for him, and my heart goes out to him, and I hope that he finds his way.
Yeah, it's like, I think there's a fine line between the guy we were just talking about here in New York, the representative justice, who says, I'm out there on Grindr and I'm listening to my LGBT friends. And yes, I do use Grindr. I'm a proud gay single man. And then the Eric Adame edge of it, where I'm a weatherman, I'm on a major market news platform, which is broadcast to, millions and millions of New Yorkers and beyond, that, but then I did do this during the time I was employed by Spectrum News, and I listed my name of employment on there, and somehow I didn't think that this was going to come back and haunt me. I do think there's somewhere in between, and we're going to find that bridge hopefully soon, where you can, obviously, we want everyone to be sexual. We want lawyers and teachers and weathermen to get fisted and pounded. We want that.
Oh,
in fact, if they are and I'm not, there's a problem. But, yeah. What's people saying as we are live on this Wednesday night and our first 2023 broadcast? This is episode 428.
Alan W. says, don't bring your job into it unless you're a host on Tag's podcast. So I think that means we should start our OnlyFans. Okay.
I'm thinking about it because, you and I are in fields that
in this times are hard.
Yeah. I am thinking, yes, exactly. Oh my goodness.
And then Calidad's in the house. Hi, Calidad. And he said he saw a live fisting for the first time last year. So I always wanted to get one of those arm tattoos too, but I never knew what that was for. Can you imagine?
I did not know that. A friend told me that. I want to confirm that, but I think it's really hot and sexy. And yeah, I do too.
I'm here for it.
Me too. Okay. Well, we love to give advice on the show. And one of the things that you can always do is you can reach out to us, whether it's sex or relationship advice. We are here for you. You can go to tagspodcast.com in the comment section or reach out to us via that way. or go DM us at Tags Podcast, and we will give you solicited advice from all of the hoes. Okay, but right now we are talking about a Reddit thread recently, and we've got a couple of them for you. I'm trying to pick the best ones. Did you have one in particular? I'd love to turn it over to you, Kodi, sometimes, because I think this is kind of fun.
What about the introverted avoidance?
Yeah, can you read that?
Life. So on Reddit, JT says, any other introverted avoidance just happy with their single life? He's an introvert who's comfortable spending time alone with his own thoughts. He is rarely bored or lonely. He has close friends that he sees and hangs out with, but he does need his own space to recharge at the end of the day. Girl, I feel that. He also has a fearful avoidant attachment style, in part due to childhood experience, and this means he fears intimacy and pulls away when others get too close. He has current sexual needs that are pretty well met. He has friends with benefits, hookups, and cruising, and so all that is settled. And so he asks if there are any other introverted avoidants out there that share this experience, and wants to know what the advice for him would be. What do we think?
It's kind of an interesting one for me, because I think it sounds like he's doing good in many ways, in terms of he's getting. I don't know if I would call myself introverted at all. I'm just more of I don't know what I would call myself. It's just I like less groups and more one-on-one. Not just sex, but
it's the opposite for sex. No,
yeah, more with everything. I'm a more one-on-one, but I think that it sounds like he's doing good. I would say if he's an avoidance factor on it, where I differ, where I'm headed, I think I was saying the same things that he was saying for so long that's all you get. In other words, if you continue the narrative for yourself that simply says, I'm an introvert, I only want this, this, and this, that is non-relationship. I think relationships are so important, and they don't always have to come in a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you have. It's that I set a tone to have more relationships, but that comes in many ways. My neighbors in particular, during the pandemic, I've continued relationships with them. And that simply means that I'm open to relationships. And one of them's in the gym, in the building with a straight man. And we have the most amazing conversations. And it's really meaningful. That's to amazing. Neighbors down the hall. One of them I dated, but then we moved on to friends. And it's really enriching my life. And I set that tone to actually have more relationships and connections, I would say, is the intention I set. And with that, I think the only thing I would say with him, it sounds like he's doing great, is that his verbiage is a little bit too about solo. And I think you should just be a little bit more open to the what if, the potential of relationships, and relationships can mean many things. That's the only thing, because it sounds like he's pulling himself into a corner of solidarity. And I do, at the end of the day, whether you are getting married, having a relationship, we are a society of relationships. We need to connect on some level. So I see him and his verbiage going down a direction of solidarity, and I just would say be open to connecting. That's all. That would be my only thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that society tends to tell everybody and people that there's a model for life, basically, that we have to have the marriage and the 2 kids and the dog. I don't like dogs, girl. And a house with
and that's a problem.
But that's not the way that things go for every single person. You have to take stock of what you want and what makes your life grow, and what can be successful for you as far as your relationships go. Because we all, as human beings, you were right, you're totally right, we all do need to have a social outlet. So I think that part of it is probably the pressure that he feels from society. So he needs to learn to kind of block that out or let it go and just move forward from there. It sounds like you said, he's in a good place. I'm down to ride. I am totally that type of person that needs to just take a second and really take stock, especially if I've been around too many people, and recharge my batteries. And I don't go anywhere. I don't talk to any. Well, I talk to Joe, and Joe loves to talk. Jesus, Lord, help me.
I love that.
How am I gonna do it with that man? I love salty pretzel. Alan W says, "Do I like salty pretzel?" And yes, I love salty pretzel.
Of course we do.
So what it is
for our live audience listening, who that's our co-host Lincoln's dog, Salty Pretzel. Yes, mascot.
I like other people's dogs. I could never have a dog for myself, basically, is what it amounts to.
I'm obsessed with dogs, and I just saw my neighbor's dog, and she was running up to me, and I'm going to go to the dog's, by the way, Roxy's birthday party. And she's a Capricorn like me, so yay. But that's how crazy I am. But yeah, I mean, I think that connection is so important, and like I agree with 100%. And we'll continue to have this conversation in different iterations this year. But when I was just at a recent wedding, I met this threesome they were so hot and sexy, and they're doing their thing. They have a house together, but one of them was flirting with me, and that was okay within their threesome relationship.
Oh, wait, a throuple?
The throuple, and
nice.
So sometimes that's the iteration of connection for some people. We talked recently, I just did a recap of 2022 of some of our best guests of 2022. You should listen to it. And one of them was a gay guru talking about open relationships and how for many that is a road and how to navigate that. And it's not always the first thing that happens. And I was talking to a good friend of mine who's married now that said they did the monogamous thing for the first month. And I said, oh, only the first month. And then moved on and their trajectory, 26 years later, they just got married. They're going straight, and for better, for worse, and they've seen it all, and they're doing great. So you're right. Connection comes in various ways, and that would be our only, I think, it sounds like we're on the same page of advice, that to maybe label yourself a introvert and continue with that narrative, maybe be just a little bit more open to a connection that could happen, and that could look many different ways, which we'll continue to talk about all year long.
I don't know if he really even, I think by connection do you mean romantic relationship?
I mean, whatever that looks like.
Okay. Yes. Explore a connection in however.
Because he was mostly talking about friends with benefits in that Reddit thread.
That he has friends that he hangs out with as well, I believe.
But there's an intimate thing that can happen, I think, and maybe he's intimate with his friends. You can be intimate with your friends and tell your deepest. I tell some of my deepest secrets only to my closest and dearest friends. You're one of them, and so
I was about to say, are we getting on the phone afterwards?
Tomorrow morning.
Okay.
11 a.m. is what I'm talking about. Yeah. I know you. Okay. I think we have more time for one more. And this one might be a good one to... Ooh. Do we have time to clever questions?
Let's go through a couple.
This could be fun because a lot of us are going on new dates. I'm going on new dates in the new year. That's many people's. Jeremy, our co-host, Jeremy Ross Lopez, one of his New Year's resolutions or goals is to go on more dates. A Reddit thread recently, more mouth mints is what he goes by on Reddit. Ask the question, good, clever questions to ask on a first date. Going on a first date tomorrow with an older guy, and I wanted to ask, what type of questions do you guys usually ask on your first date? And he wanted serious responses. This might sound silly, but I was checking in with my sister because she goes on a lot of dates periodically, and one of the things she said, as a cisgender female, is that what you call it? Yeah, I'm so bad at this stuff. She said for her, like, what's your music interest? Speaking of the Rolling Stone Top 200, and
You want to bring
I
that
can't.
back up again?
The funny shows. I can't do that though in the gay world, Cody, because
Mhm.
half the time the guys I want to go out with are artists, pop artists. Like, so they're always Mariah Carey, which I'm not the biggest fan of. Or I think a guy I want to go out with is Celine Dion, and I'm not the biggest fan of her. So I kind of have to get over my like, okay, I don't like that, but I'm just going to go with it. I like a lot of eclectic music tastes that aren't always the
Mhm.
pop genre. So that's not my question per se, although I want to know where I can put you in the mix. But what's some questions that you asked on your first date to Joe?
Oh, wow. So long ago. 2 years seems like forever. I don't know. My mother was like, "Oh, it's been a year already." I was like, "No, mom, it's been 2 years."
Feels like a year. Feels like
I
yesterday, sweetie.
Exactly. So I basically just ask what he likes to do for fun besides going out to the bars and drinking. So it's good to have a nice foundation for what you guys have in common and what you can do together outside of going out and partying. And so I think that those types of questions are amazing for me personally, and this could be a trigger for a lot of people, but I like to ask what their family relationship is like, honestly,
Well, you're
because
getting to the therapy
I
of it
know,
all.
I know, but I just can't help myself sometimes. So, but I say start light, especially like what they like to do, what types of movies, like your sister was saying, what type of movies and books are always a good
Yeah,
thing too.
good thing about movies too, because I was talking to a couple on the other day at brunch, and they're kind of a newer relationship, and
Hmm.
one of them wanted to see Avatar and was like all about it, and I'm like, absolutely not. I didn't even see the first one, and I asked the boyfriend.
Not the way of
Oh,
water.
so I asked the boyfriend, "Do you want to see Avatar too?" And he was like, "Not really, but he wants to." And it's a 3.5 hour movie. I last time I checked, and it's not one of those things that you want to just be like, "Yeah, I could take it." It's like a commitment, and
Oh
I'm already
yes.
committed to you. Now I got to commit to Avatar.
No,
Forget it.
ma'am.
No, So actually, movies are a really biggie for me. Like, and anything that's beyond the 2.5 hour mark, we are
Yeah.
not doing. So if you,
Really?
no, I have a life.
There.
I do not want to be in a movie, a theater piece. There's
Yes,
the Inheritance. That's 2 days. What was the other one, Frank, that you saw? That was 2 days it took. And Harry Potter was a 2 day experience.
Oh, I love Harry
But
Potter.
I don't
Couldn't
have
take
that.
I couldn't,
No.
yeah.
I
It has to be really good. If it's really good,
I
then
can
I will
wait for
take 2 to 3
Madonna to
hours.
start 2 hours or 3 hours late, which she does.
Girl.
But that's it. That is it.
'Cause you can get your cocktail at Madonna. Oh,
Yeah.
bring your cocktail to Harry Potter. You have a lot of fun, honey, okay?
Oh, cocktail. Alan W says, if you like something they are wearing, people like to talk about where they got it. Gives you an idea of, yes, exactly. And oftentimes that brings up like where you got it. I have a lot of pieces. Sometimes I'm saying, oh, that's from Paris and this boutique
Oh,
that I
yeah.
like. Yeah,
Mhm.
whatever. You can throw that in. That's a really good one. Yeah. I think similar, obviously, if you're meeting somebody let's take this seriously for 2 seconds.
Yes.
If you're meeting somebody in your own city, like, do you like to go out much? Do you hang out with friends? I think are really
Mhm.
key questions because we all have either our crew of people and you hang out with big groups, small groups, just to get an idea of what's to come.
Mhm.
Also, like, let's just take our city, for example. If I was to take Manhattan, I'm scaling it down here.
Okay.
Do you like to go to the Hell's Kitchen bars, or are you more of a downtowner type of bar? Or do you like to go to the circuit party events? Are you that kind of gay? Or are you more, you hate that and you like Netflix? And you don't have to say it like that, but you
Yeah,
could feel it out. Like, do you go out a lot? And if you do, like, where do you go out? And that should prompt them to say what they do, I think.
exactly. And if the date is going well, that's when you start talking about, oh, where do you like to be licked and all the things
Oh
of
my
that nature.
God. No. No. I
On
say
the
a no to
bottoms of your
that.
feet. No.
Because the reason, because I think if you're vibing at the end of a date, you will walk with them to wherever you are dropping them off, and you will make out with them usually. And usually the makeout session is like, yep, we want a date too. In our gay world, that's usually my trajectory.
Let me tell you, as a lady who has a 2-year relationship under her belt, me and my boyfriend had sex the very first night that we went on a date. There's no rules.
There's no rules. Yeah.
But make sure that you're feeling it out. It has to be right for you and right for the other person, basically.
And 2 years later, congratulations. So, and
you
are really a example of how it can work out. And I'm happy. Yeah, you give us all hope. So thank you for that. Absolutely.
Also, not every day is heaven.
No, we didn't say that. That's the next episode, which we don't have time for. But you guys all tune in. We are back in 2023. Just to give you a little heads up, if you're new to the show, we drop shows wherever you get your podcasts every Tuesday and every Thursday. So wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on and on and on. Every Tuesday, Thursday, we drop new shows, and we are down for 2023. Go to Tags Podcast, talk about gay sex. We are live, though, every Wednesday here on this platform, Vocal. And if you need to get the link, you can always go to tagspodcast.com and click on Tags Live. If you want to support Tags Podcast and everything you see to keep us going stronger, because this isn't free, you can support us by going to our Patreon page, and every little bit counts, and you can grab a tier, and what you get is extra special sexy content, and we're revising it, so there's some new perks coming your way beginning February 1st. So go to patreon.com/tags podcast. And then you can always just keep up with us on social media. And my co-host Kodi is a life coach. So do you have some slots open in 2023?
Got one slot open.
All right. So reach out to Kodi. The best way is on Instagram and at KMD Coaching. KMD Coaching. And his personal account, where you can see his boyfriend Joe, at Mr. Maurice. We are on at Tags Podcast on all social media platforms, the TikTok, Instagram, all the Twitter, and all the above at Tags Podcast. Of course, go to tagspodcast.com. We thank you for watching us live. And in the meantime, continue. Thanks, Kodi.
Thank you, baby.
Yeah. Continue having hot gay sex. Yeah.